Oh, Jay Sanderson, how do you decide what tools you need at the start of a project without it snowballing? I don't. Jay Sanderson says, thinking about your buy cheap first advice, are toolkits a good starting point instead of buying tools individually? No, I don't believe in buying toolkits unless you're buying a bicycle toolkit. The bicycle space has a lot of marvelous companies competing with each other to make nice, well-formed tools for working on your bicycle. That's my favorite space for toolkits right now. But I see. You're saying what tools you need at the start of a project to buy, not necessarily gathering around your shop. Because I tell you, I come in here and do something like, my bike's got a loose bolt. And by the time I'm done fixing this thing, in 5 minutes, I've got like 12 tools from all over the shop that all have to go back. So it always is snowballing. But you're asking about buying tools at the start of a project. Yes. Patrick Hennessy has a question that is also germane to this. Patrick Hennessy's question is, I enjoyed your sewing video. Wasn't that fun? One of my favorite videos in a while was really, really fun. I enjoyed it. I laughed at my own jokes, which rarely happens. Patrick Hennessy, I enjoyed your sewing video. How do you decide when it's time to acquire or replace tools? Do you wait until they wear out? No. I mean, sometimes. Or do you see something and decide it's time to acquire it? Let's talk about you, not me, because I am a profligate tool collector. But you're asking a question how this interfaces with your practice. So I'll talk about being a younger maker and a more beginning maker in the gathering of tools. First off, there are multiple ways to acquire or replace tools. You might get a bonus from work, and you might want to spend part of that on some new tools. You might decide that your shop requires a capital expense and save up money and spend it out of your savings. You might get a job to use a tool you don't yet have and put in the bid the price for that tool. That's how I got my first FAF sewing machine, my first real prosumer sewing machine. You could trade a tool to someone else. I'm going to talk for a second about efficient and inefficient markets. Used clothing used to be an inefficient market. And by that I mean you could go into a thrift store and you could find interesting items that were potentially undervalued and score. And that is happening less and less and less as the internet makes items of rarity more and more findable, and more people know what to look for in thrift stores. All that means is that deals are harder to find. And when deals are harder to find in something like clothing, we think of that market as an efficient market. I am not making a value judgment. I'm just using the terms of art. Tools is still a marvelously inefficient market. There are still many places you can buy tools for pennies on the dollar. So early tools that you might need for a project can be gotten at antique malls. Is a great place to go buy your basic hand tools: hammers, screwdrivers, some pliers, a handsaw, a hacksaw. Those things are often going for much, much cheaper than the retail value at stores like that. So in the beginning, it's just about acquiring the stuff you need. But let's say now you're asking Jay Sanderson about a project for which you need a tool. Buying cheap first advice. Okay, so Sanderson likes my buying cheap first. I always exhort one to, if you need a new tool and you're not sure if it will be useful to you, buy the Harbor Freight or Temu version. And if it integrates even a little bit, then it is worth spending the money on the real thing. And my example is the pneumatic rivet gun. I first learned about a pneumatic rivet gun in the early aughts. I saw one on Harbor Freight, and then I also saw one elsewhere, and I saw that the Harbor Freight one was like a quarter of the price of all the others. So I bought it, and I wore it out in about a year. But in that year, it was clear to me from using the pneumatic rivet gun, that a real pneumatic rivet gun would be a boon to my practice. And I spent $150 on one, which was a lot of money back then. And I still have it. It still works perfectly. So that's my buy cheap advice. Patrick Hennessy, when it's time to acquire. Well, so I think there's when it's time to acquire. One might be, actually it's desire. It's your desire to bring that tool into your headspace, head canon, your problem solving canon. For me, when to acquire is I have tried enough workarounds to know that I now need that tool. Or I've always wanted that tool and let me go get one. And sometimes actually, you're asking, like, do you wait for a tool to wear out? We have, like, every maker in the world has suffered using a poorly laid out tool that doesn't quite work because, well, it kind of works, and why replace it if it kind of works? Our shops all have a lot of those things. And sometimes the acquisition comes because I'm wandering through a store that services a totally different maker market, right? Like I'm wandering through a Japanese planting store and discover a pair of clippers that I never knew existed. I now am just sort of rambling. I hope that some of what I've said is useful in there about acquiring and building up your shop stock of tools. My favorite way is to get a job that allows me to buy the tool. That's the best thing. That is without a doubt the best thing, because then, then you get this shiny new tool endorphin rush in the middle of a job that you're executing. I really enjoy that endorphin rush. Okay. With the Sailrite sewing machine, it wasn't a project that made me go and finally pull the trigger on buying this. It was just that I'd wanted one for so long, it was finally time to do it. I think that's why I eventually got that. Auctions. Auctions are another great place where capital investment tools can be bought for extremely cheap. Let me give you an example. Out here in California, Northern California, a Silicon Valley company might go out of business and they'll auction off all the big stuff they had for R&D in that company, but they might also have a small wood shop at this big tech startup. And I guarantee you the people who are going to tech startup failure auctions are not looking for table saws. And so this can be a market in which you can obtain tools for a lot cheaper. There's a lot of infrastructure to go through. Most of them don't ship, so you've got to work that out, and it can be a pain in the ass. But auctions are a great place to exploit the inefficiency of tools as a market. And J-Sanderson, I'm never worried about the tool acquisition snowballing. That's more likely to happen in a company than in a single maker's shop, in my personal experience. Thank you for watching. I wanted to talk to you about Tested membership. The Tested members are a key community that we find really, really remarkable. That's very separate from Tested and from YouTube. The Tested members, they buy each other memberships during our live streams. So if you're wondering whether to become a member, watch one of our live streams and someone may just give you one. It is hard to overestimate how much the Tested members actually make possible on this channel. They give us a lot of wiggle room. They give us a huge amount of feedback.
That's a member right now.
Thank you so much for enjoying your membership. Description for everything you need to know. And for all the members out there, thank you, thank you, thank you.